I didn't have to duck down.
It's kind of cool how it's just like a little tunnel through here. Like most big cave tours you go in, it's real open.
Salamander.
Oh,
Right there. This is the cave salamander. He lives outside the cave, or she does. She comes in to lay eggs. But she has skin pigment and functioning eyes.
oh,
From the back
so
in the cave, you
cute.
might see the brown blind salamanders.
Oh.
Don't step on it. Yeah, oh, be careful.
Tell everyone behind you not to step on him. Oh, wow. Really opened up a lot, didn't it? Wow. Oh, those are neat.
Whoa. Why are you?
Because it's hard to take pictures and look.
And why they take my picture?
Dolomite. It's very soluble by water. And it's the whole reason we have a national park here. All of our caves and all of our springs and most of our bluffs along the river are in this rock layer. Very soluble, very soft, easily dissolved. If you've been down to Round Springs and seen that deep blue tint coming up out of the water, that's dissolved minerals, primarily calcium that is actually being dissolved out of this rock. So we can say Round Springs is a cave system being built basically by nature. What happened to the spring here? Well, the current river eroded down the floor of this cave and actually drained it out and became a cave. The same thing will happen with Round Springs at some point in time as the current river continues to erode down, lowering the water table, and eventually that'll be a cave system. Now, Round Springs, we've traced in sinkholes 10 miles away, and it's come up here at Round Springs. So it's a very large system, as was this one. Just the size of this passage tells us a tremendous amount of water moved through here at one time. So it was a very large spring system itself. But like I said, on both ends of the cave now, it's totally collapsed. There's no other way in this cave other than the way that we actually came in. Any questions before we move on? Okay, the tour goes this way because most of the natural, really neat stuff that's in the cave is down this way. And we'll get to see it. The other side here, I've been up this passageway, it looks about like this, almost the whole way. Not very many formations, and there's definitely not any formation ruins like we'll see on the left-hand passage.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's pretty.
So what it look like, baby?
With a slight amount of calcium in them. Of course, if they go from the ceiling down, they're called stalactites. From the floor up, a stalagmite. Usually they have a stalactite right above a stalagmite, and they'll eventually grow together, and they form a column. And our column is broken here because this group got so big and so heavy it collapsed the clay that it was growing on, and it snapped, and it actually dropped about 6 inches. But if this was complete, it would be a column. The other type of formation we have in this cave, and we have a lot of draperies in here. This cave is famous for its draperies. Draperies are very thin formations. They're convoluted like a grape, and they form when water runs down this leading edge right here. So it goes to formation sideways and down. It's a type of stalactite, basically. But these can be so thin that you can actually shine a flashlight right through them. And we'll see a lot of these farther back in the cave. The other thing I want to point out about this room is when I shine my light around it, the formations all seem very dull. They do not reflect light very well. That means there's no water on them. And if there's no water on them, there's no fresh calcite being laid down because the water is carrying the calcite. So the water dripped in here for tens of thousands in this room. Farther back in the cave, we'll see formations covered with water, fresh calcite being laid down. But for all practical purposes, this room is dormant for now. Doesn't mean it'll always be that way. At some point in the future, something else could change. The water could start dripping in this room again. We do see a few little tiny formations that there are water droplets on them, reflecting the light. So there's a little bit of activity in here, but not much. We're going to go down these steps, and they're clay, so watch your footing as you go down.
Oh, yeah, another big room. Wow. Well, that's a nice one right there.
Take a picture.
Look at all the little straw things. Lots of them.
Yep, that's a column. Nice little column.
Look how big the ceiling is up there.
You see formations like this going down the wall. We often call those frozen waterfalls.
It does look like a waterfall. Frozen. That is neat. Yeah.
Right here. And as a tour guide went over the hill, people actually touched this formation. And we can readily see that today because from about here to the top up here, there's no activity going on. No water is actually sticking to this formation because it has so much oil on it. When oil and water don't mix, the water just runs off and does not leave behind any calcite. But on the back side where they didn't touch it, we can see water readily sticking to this formation as the calcite being laid down. So that tells us that basically the oils on your skin can damage formations, and that's why we ask you not to touch formations. Now farther back in the cave, we're going to be climbing up some very wet clay steps where there are formations on each side of it. If you were to slip in there, by all means grab a formation. We would have our formation slightly damaged and have you put it on to it. So keep that in mind. Don't readily touch them, but if you have to touch one, please touch it. The other thing I want to point out is the soda straws in here. They're baby stalactites. All stalactites start out as soda straws. You can see why we call them soda straws. They're white and they're hobbled. And the water that builds them actually runs down the center. And basically that water has calcite in it, and it builds this soda straw. Sometimes these things will get as long as 12, 18 inches, but most of them just break off under their own weight. and then another one starts growing in its place. But if that center channel actually stops up and the water starts running down the outside, it starts growing as stalactites. And those stalactites will continue to grow for as long as the water actually runs down the outside of it. And some of these can get very, very huge. The other thing I'll point out about soda straw is the fact they are the fastest growing formation in the cave. And on average, it depends on how much minerals in the water and how much water we're getting, they average about 1 inch of growth for 100 years. So some of these have been here for a couple hundred years. That one's about 3 inches long, maybe 300 years. But if it takes 100 years of this little thing growing in, how long does it take to grow this thing? If we could walk around behind it, you can see that this is a circular formation and as big as a redwood tree. And it took thousands and thousands of years to actually grow here. It's very active. You can see it's reflecting light well. That means there's water sticking to the formation and fresh calcite being laid down. But I do want to point out that
What?
That's been here.
even though we don't even have one bat in the cave today, and in the wintertime we only have about 100 bats that actually hibernate inside this cave, we have huge piles of bat guano in here. That tells us at one time we had huge colonies of bats in here, probably Indiana or gray bats, because they like to raise their babies inside a cave. And a pile as big as this tells us that we have thousands, and we have actually other piles all through this cave. This is a very old pile of bat guano. If it was fresh, we would into this area as the climate warmed. They actually left here 700 or 800 years ago. Human beings entered this cave 150 years ago. So we did not run the bats out. They left on their own. We have no idea why exactly they left this cave, but they did. But this is a great place to raise babies if you're a bat. A lot of good handholds up here for you to hang on to. Big dry dome, no dripping water, but water nearby. So they actually occupied this cave for a period of about 7,000 years. We don't know exactly why they left. We also have a historic perspective to bat guano too. When the original settlers came up the current river and they started finding these caves and started entering them, they often found huge amounts of bat guano. And bat guanos are high in nitrate, and they actually mined this stuff for fertilizer for decades. But also, if you have water dripping on top of this stuff, it actually leaches out that nitrate and will sometimes form a vein of the crystalline version of nitrate or saltpeter. You take saltpeter, you mix it with carbon, basically charcoal or something like that, you get gunpowder. So downriver, about 25 miles, if you see the map of the park, you see a place called Powder Mill. Just basically a bridge going across the river now, but there's a cave there, and it's 6 miles long, and our scientists estimate that 50% of that volume of that cave is covered in bat guano. And so they actually found lots and lots of saltpeter in there, so they actually mined it out of that cave from the 1860s to about 1900 and made gunpowder there, hence the name Powder Mill. So that's where that came from. But anyway, it was very lucrative. It was a very thriving community down there because basically saltpeter brought about $80 per 100 pounds, and that was comparable to silver back in that day. So it's like mining silver. But anyway, that just shows how resourceful our forefathers were, that they could take what they found wherever they were at and actually turn it into something.
Is Powdermill Cave still open?
No, it isn't. We still have Indiana bats in that cave, and it is gated to protect the bats. The Indiana bats are an endangered species. So pretty well, if you run into one of our caves and it's got a gate on it, we have bats in it, and that's why it's gated. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on. We've got a lot of cave to see. Another big pile here.
Okay.
Low ceiling right here for you taller guys.
Wow. How high up that goes up there? Oh yeah.
Drink out of it. Holly Spring is a very large spring. Water comes from far away, Summersville. And we don't always know what's on the surface out there. The springs, basically, some of them come up from down deep, but there's also a surface component here. We have water coming in from sinkholes and sinking creeks above us and directly depositing that surface water right into the springs. When it rains really hard outside, this turns murky overnight, so that tells us we have surface water coming in also. So the Department of Natural Resources has tested all the water in our larger springs, and they have found something in there that you don't want to be drinking. So please don't drink out of our springs. As far as this little spring, sometimes you might think that a small spring is very localized, like you see nothing but forest around you, and all that water is coming out of the forest. Things do be rooted in the woods, so we'll wonder that. But as far as our little spring here, it looks crystal clear and it might be safe to drink. We have salamanders in this that would not tolerate pollution very much, so we know it's going to be fairly clean. But if we go upstream here, see a huge pile of bat poop that's actually eroding into the stream, and all this black stuff that's coming down through here is actually bat poop. So if you were outside and you now saw this spring coming out from a little cave there on the bank of the creek, you might think it's safe to drink. But if you did, you'd actually be drinking bat poop. So we tell people, if you don't know for sure where that water is coming from, don't drink it here in the state of Missouri. If you want to drink spring water, go to Walmart and buy it in a bottle. It says spring water. I'm not sure if it is spring water, but I do know it's tested and safe to drink. This is spring water. I'm not sure this is safe to drink. So please do not drink that first. Now, right in this area, I usually find the blind white salamander, the ghost salamander. It's called grotto salamanders. I'll be looking for them as we go through here. Hopefully we can see one fairly rare.
The water is so clear. A little pull up there. Sorry. It's so clear you almost can't even tell that it's there. Wow. That's really pretty.
And you can use your flash in here. There's no salamanders in this room. And we are aware of it anyway.
Those ones that are white are really cool. It's like snow.
Yeah, that's pure calcite. The burnt orange ones and these all have a lot of iron oxide in them, but the white ones are pure calcite.
Going down, guys. Oh, there is a lot of formations in here.
This is a stalagmite floor up over 40 feet high. You can imagine how long it took each. There's two of them here side by side, how long it took them to grow.
I think this is one of the most formed caves that we've been in too. There's a lot. Wow.
Water's cold on top of my hand.
Oh, look at that neat little white one. That's a
You need to stop here and turn around and look behind us.
oh.
One of the most beautiful formation groups inside the cave. Our postcard is of this formation group. And if you Google, you often see pictures from here. Because you've got all three colors in these formations.
Sorry.
The burnt oranges, the whites.
My favorite part of the cave.
Just stuff the microwave and stuff under the bed. You know where you can walk.
Mm-hmm.
So was it through here that they blasted to make it taller?
You see the rock like this, and this is weathered next to those who are either chipped off with pickaxes or actually blasted out. So as we were coming through the lower portion, there was quite a bit of rock removed in that section.
Oh, I feel the hot air. We're almost